evening, viewers, and welcome to another edition of Moving Forward, the show that keeps you up to date with the activities of the Congress of the People. We wish to apologize for our late start due to some technical difficulties. But before we go on, because this week was a very, very busy week in the COP, I wish to reintroduce my very lovely co-host, the one and only Ms. Kavita Ramnanan. Welcome back, Kavita.
Thank you very much, Nigel, and it is great to be back. Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Moving Forward here on WIN TV. It's been a long break, but yes, as you mentioned, a lot has been happening with the COP.
A lot.
This week, we have, as a party, we've pretty much dominated the news headlines
yes,
and all activities that have been taking place in Trinidad and Tobago.
By all means, we were in the news from everything concerning our mayor and, of course, the ever-popular sayings that our political leader and all the meetings that came out of everything that resulted from our COP mayor going over to the UNC, crossing the floor.
And Nigel, as I know that our viewers will be very excited to hear what the COP has to say. And we do know that a meeting took place this morning, between our political leader, members of the National Executive, and other senior officials of the Congress of the People. And we assure you that we abide by the wishes of our party that any further statements will be made after the meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
So, viewers, we know that you're excited, just as all of us, to hear what is taking place, and we know that further statements will be made by our party tomorrow after the meeting of the leaders of the People's Partnership. But
one thing that I must say is the overwhelming support from the inside of the party that our political leader has been receiving. I must say so.
It has been a tremendous amount of support coming from every branch of the Congress of the People.
The constituency reps, the executives from these constituencies.
Yes, the Youth Congress, every branch, the Women's
Arm. Exactly.
And it's good to see that we're taking a stance. And it's something that I know on all the shows that our leaders, our deputy political leaders, and all members of our National Executive have been on Moving Forward. They've made it clear. The COP stands for integrity, and it's something that we're going to continue to stand for. And it is showing now in the stance that the party has taken.
By all means. And we plan to continue with our stance of integrity, and we support the decisions made by our political leader, and we hope that everything works out best for the COP and the People's Partnership government as well.
Exactly. And remember, it's all for the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago at the end.
At the end.
It's all for the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Citizens like you and me.
Definitely. Now, March has been termed by the Congress of the People Constitutional Reform Consultation Month.
Yes, and as you can see, for the entire month, we had a series of meetings taking place at all over different sites of the country. We launched at Operations Center, and we went on to Hillview College, then Faizabad Renaissance House, San Fernando at City Hall, Arima, and Diego Martin.
Definitely. And, you know, I remember when we had our chairman of the Congress of the People, Mr. Joe Tony, on the show talking about constitutional reform. Mr. Tony started discussing what is constitutional reform, all the steps that we wish to take with regards to constitutional reform. And he gave the 7 key areas that the Congress of the People wanted to have constitutional reform and the changes that we wish to have. And in all the meetings that we have had thus far, all the consultations and the public meetings that we've had thus far, other issues within our constitution were raised. And it's good to see that the members of the public came out, voiced their opinions, and I know that a lot of different aspects of the constitution came up.
Yes.
And one of the key areas, and I guess it startled me to understand that a lot of people really don't know what's in our constitution. How many articles are in our constitution? And exactly what rights do we have as a people? And the starting point, yes, a lot of us will go to Article 4 and the other articles of the Constitution, but you really don't know your rights, and it all comes from education.
So therefore you see that education is important for constitutional reform, because the Constitution essentially lays the groundwork from which our society runs.
Exactly. And if you do not understand and know your Constitution, you're not going to know what rights you have as a people and just how strong you are and what your liberties are and what you're entitled to. So I think this was an issue that was raised in a lot of the meetings, and I know that our party is taking it to heart, the National Executive is taking it to heart, and steps are being put into place to start educating us as a nation of our Constitution and exactly what is in it. If we do not understand what we have now, there is no way we can understand how we can change it to make it better.
Well, that is the important thing, because as we can see, the Constitution does need a bit of revision. It does need updating. It does need changes. As society changes, the Constitution will also need to change in order to fit the needs of our society.
Definitely. And we'd like to remind our viewers that the COP will be having the final constitutional reform consultation that's going to be taking place on Tuesday. That's this Tuesday, the 3rd of April 2012. And this meeting is going to be taking place at the reception hall of the cruise ship complex. That's on the Port of Spain waterfront. Meeting starts at 6 p.m. And our keynote speaker is going to be Senior Counsel Dana Sita-Hall.
Yes, and chairing the meeting will be our very own Deputy Political Leader, Vice Chairman, my mistake, the Vice Chairman, Senior Counsel, Mr. Vernon De Lima. So you are again all invited to come out at the reception hall, Port of Spain, cruise ship complex at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 3rd of April, 2012.
Definitely. And also in letting our viewers know exactly what's going on in the COP tomorrow. Another consultation is going to be taking place tomorrow. The San Fernando West MP, the Honorable Mrs. Caroline Sipasad Bechan, invites members of the public to attend the public consultation meeting. Is going to be taking place at Naparima Bowl tomorrow, April 2nd at 7 p.m., where they're going to be discussing the waterfront development project in San Fernando. So especially constituents of San Fernando, members of the public, all it's open to general members of the public, especially constituents of San Fernando. We wish you go to attend the meeting at Naparima Bowl tomorrow at 7 p.m. and discuss the development of the waterfront complex.
Wouldn't it be great if the waterfront could look anything like what the waterfront in Port of Spain looks like?
It would be beautiful.
Yes.
It really will be beautiful. It's not only going to be a tourist attraction, but it's a comfort and recreational area. You take a nice walk along the waterfront. It's calming, relaxing at the end of the day and the weekend. So it is for the benefit of the constituents. We really urge you to go and attend that meeting. That's tomorrow, April 2nd, 2012 at Naparima Bowl at 7 p.m. Now, Nigel, to go back to constitutional reform, and as I mentioned earlier, we've been having a lot of meetings. Last Sunday at the Operations Center, the Youth Congress, as well as the Women's Arm of the Congress of the People, held their constitutional reform segment, their consultation with the public, attended by members of the Youth Congress, or the Youth Representative, and the Women's
Arm. Yes.
Our political leader, the Honorable Prakash Amada, was also present. This meeting was, the moderator of this meeting was none other than Mr. Kevin Attorney at law, the popular,
the popular Kevin
and we had our keynote speaker who raised some issues on the Constitution that really, this is the one speaker that really brought it home to me, that a lot of us really don't know what's in our Constitution. And she admitted that she's never voted, and the reason for never voting is she really didn't understand why she needed to vote. And again, brought up aspects of our Constitution that brought us a different angle. So we're going to be showing you a clip of that constitutional reform meeting that took place at the COP Operations Center last Sunday.
The consultations on constitutional reform organized by the Congress of the People continued on Sunday, the 25th of March at Operations Center in Charleville, when the COP Youth Congress and the COP Women's Forum organized a very, very interesting debate. There were several participants and concerns that were expressed, several ideas were discussed, and several factors involved in the art of constitutional reform were put forward at this very important organizational structure put forward by the COP Youth Congress and the COP Women's Forum.
Let us together design a constitution for the sovereign state of Trinidad and Tobago that will be a model for unitary governance in the 21st century. And let us with patriotic fervor endow the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago with the spirit and pride of our national anthem, so together we can aspire side by side. Let the Constitution that we are about to draft bound our peoples by trust, respect, integrity, and character.
It is my pleasure this afternoon to stand here before you all, you youths and women who have come to support this occasion on consultation for constitutional reform. It is something that has been long awaited in the shadows, and I am glad that the youth has taken the initiative to actually bring it forward and to hear their side on what constitutional reform really is, and to give their input on how it affects youth as a whole.
We in the Congress of the People now share in the People's Partnership, and therefore a promise which we made together with our partners of constitutional reform is a top priority for this party. Whilst in government, while we have the authority to make the changes, now is the time we must do this. For 2 years almost we've been in power, and many have started to believe that the talk of constitutional reform was just old talk and the old-time politics of promises that were never intended to be kept. This party puts as its top priority to continue to remain a member of the People's Partnership, constitutional reform. This constitution must be reformed, and it must be reformed in this term. We have been elected from 2010 and the term ends in 2015. Constitutional reform will come from this People's Partnership.
The first time I had any kind of interaction with the Constitution, it was in 2006. This was the first time that I ever cared that we had a Constitution. That was when I was involved in the anti-smelter movement. And we were setting up a camp down in Chatham, where the then PNM government had signed this memorandum of understanding with Alcoa, with this secret figure that they had signed this memorandum of understanding, saying that they were going to build this smelter plant on the apex of an aquifer. And the people down there said, but the woman down there said, no, this is not acceptable. How could people in authority be infringing on rights that I kind of thought that we had? So I was forced to go to the Constitution and look at Article 4. And Article 4 was the only place that I found myself. Everything else was just fluff. It was talking about the Prime Minister and this and that and the next. And I was like, where else am I in this? I'm not anywhere else in this except for Article 4, which is incomplete. It's incomplete. But anyway, I made sure that one of the children from the community wrote out the articles of the different rights enshrined in Article 4. And we put it up on Food Crop Road in that protest camp that we had. And on several occasions, the police came and had these confrontations with the people, particularly women and children in these communities, without any sort of conception of the rights that they were infringing on. And it occurred to me again, how is it that you can have police who are supposed to be working to protect and serve a community, working against a community? So that's another issue that we need to address if we're looking at a constitution. How are we creating institutions that work against the people? That don't make no sense to me. Or is it that we have this thing that is just on paper, but it means nothing? Because at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want anyway.
I'm a member of the Constitutional Reform Committee, and I've been going around listening to everyone and hearing, and I have learned a lot about the Constitution. Even though I do have a Constitution, I have looked at it several times, but in specific areas. But doing this process, I learned so much. And I came here specifically because I wanted to hear what the young people think needs to be done with our Constitution. And I received what I thought was something very refreshing. And it's a different perspective. It's out of the box. Yes, we have to decide our mangoness. But what is important to me is that you are the young people. And this is the way you think. And you should have a very important say in what goes into our Constitution.
I need to break down the issues that we have with the Constitution in a palatable way that the average person, you go with the average, and not even the average, the lowest rung in terms of intellectual capacity, and explain it to them on that level and then work up from there, because you have to kind of give them, you know, they say a teaspoon of sugar is helping medicine go down. You have to break it down in a way that they understand it, because the vast majority of people in the country, let's be honest, are not in tune to this, and it doesn't really affect them, because what they study is how they go and buy bread and butter and put shoes on the children's foot and pay passage to go to school. So we need to bring constitutional reform into the context where it affects them in a positive way.
The final of these consultations will take place on Tuesday, the 3rd of April, at the Reception Hall Cruise Ship Complex, Ryson Road in Port of Spain, from 6 p.m. The guest speaker will be Dena Sitahal, Senior Counsel, and moderator Vernon Dilima. You are all invited to attend.